So a few days ago, I had the great pleasure of talking with Spenny from Kenny vs. Spenny. Just gonna give you a quick blurb before we jump into the conversation. So for the viewers who don't know what Kenny vs. Spenny is, Kenny vs. Spenny is a Canadian TV show. Had 6 seasons to it. It's a reality TV show where you have two guys in their apartment, Kenny and Spenny, and every week they're faced with a new challenge, like a new competition. So you had stuff like who can eat more meat, who can blow the biggest fart, first to touch the ground loses, stuff like that. They compete with one another because the loser has to do a humiliation. Now you have Kenny, gross, slob, bit of a narcissist, and you have Spenny, who's a neurotic type, very OCD. And every week was that. It was playing on the CBC, and then it moved to Showtime, and you can assume why it did make that switch. It's a pretty raunchy TV show, and the raunchiness of that TV show is what was the main interest of me talking with Spenny. If you're a Kenny vs. Spenny fan like me, you probably found yourself watching these episodes recently and just like fucking scratching your head and like, how did this stuff ever come out, you know? Because I feel like so much has changed since Kenny vs. Spenny got cancelled. Comedy has changed so much, and that was the main thing I thought would be interesting to talk about with one of the creators of Kenny vs. Spenny. And that's really what we did talk about. We talked about if Kenny vs. Spenny still holds. And I feel like Spenny had a lot of interesting things to say. So without further ado, here it is. Enjoy the conversation.
Where are you, first of all?
Right now I'm in Bangor, Maine, but I'm from Quebec.
Bangor, Maine.
Yeah.
Cool.
King of the road.
Yeah, any lobster?
Yeah, I've had lobster here. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
You seen the bush compounds?
No, what are those? I'm pretty new around here.
No, Bush is the dynasty, the presidential George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush, Jeb Bush. They have this incredible hunk of the coast of Maine that they own, like Kenny Bunkport. It's unbelievable how rich they are, how much property.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so I made a video on my channel, and I basically wanted to share my thoughts about Kenny versus Spenny and how it's aged throughout the years. And it's like a topic that's really interesting to me, because I feel like the face of comedy has changed so much, like the landscape of it, in just like a short amount of time. Where it's like, when I grew up, shit like Kenny versus Spenny and Jackass and Tom Green, those were like big shows, versus nowadays, I don't know if that would play well to a general audience. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I guess I have thoughts on that. From a creative perspective, Kenny and I and myself, we do what we want to do, and if it's politically incorrect, I mean, we're not suicidal about it, but I don't love the cancel culture, especially as a comedian. There's for many reasons I don't like it. But when you see us live, you're seeing unfiltered crazy shit. A lot of the craziest stuff comes out of Kenny's mouth, and of course he's joking. He makes fun of the Holocaust. He makes fun of, gays sometimes, but he's not like that. It's all a joke. And I guess that's the biggest issue comedians have with that's part of joking, right? Like,
Yeah.
There's malignant intent, and then there's benign intent, and comedians by and large are benign, and they make fun of stereotypes. We grew up loving Don Rickles, and
Yeah, exactly.
I saw him in Vegas. It was incredible. He had a black man come up on stage, and he hugged him and kissed him on the lips and said, "You're free." It was just so. But I don't know. I don't really know. Like, I think people would love our show and Tom Green and Jackass today. I mean, I really do. I think what happens is, because of cancel culture, it's a minority of people that are very loud. It affects the broadcaster uh, in taking risks. So there might be less opportunity for edgier comedy these days. But I don't really watch television, and so I don't really know what's out there. So you would know better than I do. When I say I don't watch TV, I don't watch sitcoms. I watch news and I watch documentaries. That's always been my thing.
And that's basically how I feel too. Like I'll watch movies, but I find myself just going more towards older films these days, just because.
Sure.
But I feel so much. It's like there's gonna be like, just like you guys. You guys were a counterculture. You guys were part of that counterculture movement of Jackass and stuff like that. And I think we're bound to have another one. Like,
Well, that's for sure. It's it's always a give and take. But I listen to Sarah Silverman, and she's saying outrageous things, usually online because I don't really watch television. So I'm not really so sure that. I mean, I think there's an elegant way of doing that kind of stuff, and if you're going to be easily offended, I push back on those people because I think it's ridiculous. Because what you're doing is you're attacking the person that's not the bad guy. Yeah, okay, they're saying something that maybe offends you. Big whoop, like that's called life, man. Not everyone's going to love you, and you're not going to love everything everybody does. And when you try to control it, that's pathetic, man. When you should be focusing on people who really do bad things, people who hurt other people, physically, or and again, there's that fine line between, I think Kenny gets away with all kinds of amazing stuff, because there's something about him that must seem that he's just joking, that he's trying to shock you,
It's so outrageous that like it has to be a joke because no one actually thinks this. But that like reminds me of one episode I remember of Who Do Black Guys Like More? And there's that part where Kenny's doing blackface and pretending to be your maid from your childhood. Like, just shit like that. Like, I don't know. Can you just copy-paste Kenny versus Spenny from early 2000s to nowadays? And
I don't know, because I'm not a pop culture guy. I don't really know what's current now. But I know in that particular episode, I can tell you something that happened, which is I dressed up as a Klansman, and... And I just started channeling what I think an ignorant Southern guy would say. And I said all kinds of very offensive things. And that has made the internet. But they cut it because if you watch the whole episode, I sit down and talk to them about it. Right?
Yeah.
And they laughed at me when I was doing it. So, again, these are people that are looking for ways to hurt you. And some people deserve to, look at Weinstein. If you get into the Me Too movement, like that guy was a predator, and he was what I call a malignant bad guy. And then you've got Louis C.K., who maybe was he didn't hurt anybody. He supposedly he jerked off in front of some female comics in his hotel room. Not his best foot forward, but there's a difference between what Weinstein did in a serial way and what he did. So there's a bit of hysteria in the culture right now about a lot of that stuff. And I don't know what to do. I mean, if I did something and it affected my career, I'd have to get a job, I guess, wouldn't I? I'd have to continue to support my family. But I'm not going to change like the Kenny versus Spenny dynamic to a point. Again, we're not idiots. We're not going to try. If a broadcaster says, okay, no more Hitler stuff, we'll lose the Hitler stuff, because there's big paydays involved, and we won't have the payday. But if it becomes so overbearing that we can't be ourselves in any capacity, I'd probably still do it for the money, frankly. But the product would be shit, right? It wouldn't be real. It would be neutered. And I don't know. Look, it's funny because my comedy is very different than Kenny's. Kenny is a shock comedian. My comedy is the comedy of good manners, the comedy of believing in things, and both are funny in their own way. So he would have more problems than I would. But as far as I can tell, we're both sort of saying dark things about, Basically, people who are laughing at me are laughing at loyalty. They're laughing at education. They're laughing at the buttons I push. I'm like what I call a reverse heel, in wrestling, right? Like if I talk about, pollution or, clean water, right? Oh, Spenny, well, he's so fucking lame. But I get the reaction, right?
Yeah.
So
whatever works. And that's one thing I like about the show. It's how it progresses.
It's not whatever works, it's whatever's real. So there is a side of me that is like that. I just push it because now all of a sudden it's like, it's uncool to work hard. It's uncool to read. It's uncool to, maybe say, I don't know what I'm talking about, or this is a complex situation. Everybody seems to have their platform and they think they've got it all figured out. Well, let me tell you something. They're full of shit, right? And that's how you get the Trump era, right? It's which is just tremendous fuel for me as a comedian, as coming from what I come from, because I can fight these people all day long and I can outthink them. And it's not that I'm smart; it's they're dumb. That's what it is. It's not that I'm smart; they really are dumb. I mean, and when I say dumb, I mean they're against intellectuals, like they're against science. They're against all these things that have come out of the Enlightenment.
I want to steer the conversation just a bit. We kind of went on a tangent, and I have a no politics rule on my channel just because I feel like it's so over everywhere.
Well, I was heading there, so
yeah, I felt that. So, but you did bring up something I thought was interesting, and it was just the dynamic between you and Kenny. And I feel that's the thing that makes your show stand out from a Jackass. It's really that dynamic. It plays like on my channel I talked about how it reminded me of Three Stooges, just like each character has their own dynamic and they're just playing off of each other. And obviously you guys are doing reality TV, but it still applies. And one thing that is interesting as well is seeing how that dynamic changed from season 1 all the way to the final season. And you guys had conflicts, and I'm wondering, is that relationship gonna is it gonna change if you guys so happen to do another season, or would it basically?
I don't think we might do something else, but I don't think it's going to be Kenny versus Spenny. But the fundamentals of Kenny versus Spenny, which is our chemistry and our differing personalities and philosophies about life, and worldviews, let's say, will remain intact. So you're right about Jackass. I don't see them as comedians, and that's not a put down. They're way more successful than we are. So and they are funny. I've been to their movies in the theater, and people laugh their asses off. But it's a world away from what Kenny and I do. Tom Green, I see as the real innovator in the sort of area that we find ourselves in, which is a reality comedy area, which didn't really exist too much before that. So, and yet Tom works mostly in the old days in vignettes, right? When he was, in his prime, the golden years of Tom Green, there was no story. It was just situations that he would create that were hilarious. So I've always felt that Kenny and I have a very unique thing that we're doing, but we stand on the shoulders of the people that came before us, for sure. And you said it. We really do apply to the classic comedy duo dynamic, but because we're not actors, because we're shooting documentary and not sketch or anything else, you have this interesting hybrid of the classic comedy duo, which essentially is the wild man and the straight man. And it seems fresh because it is fresh. It's a different spin on a very classic old thing. Kenny and I were comedy guys. We're comedy geeks. We were smart enough to see it, but it took us a while to understand it. We did a movie together that was a documentary where we were on camera, and then we'd see people laughing at our interactions, and it really wasn't about us. The film, in a way, it was the pitch. It was called Pitch.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's really good.
And that was where we were clever enough to see this is a comedy duo, and it's us, and this is really us. It's not like we're acting or anything like that. So we we took advantage of that, and we took a chance. And Kenny versus Spenny is a cult. It's a niche. It's a boutique or whatever they call it. But we love it. Kenny loves it more than me. But I think it's an incredible show. Kenny thinks it's the greatest show in the history of television, as he likes to say. But I'm very proud of it. And but getting back to your initial thing, which is, how could we be that much different? I mean, you can't really tame Kenny. You could maybe edit some of his, don't do rape jokes, but he loves rape jokes. Is he a rapist? No, but it really goes down to, like, I love Dice Clay. You remember Andrew Dice Clay,
Yeah.
right? All the hysteria around him. I had met him, and I knew a very close friend of his, and I got to see him live, and they don't get it. Like the character, his name's Andrew and Silverstein. The character he's portraying is a moron, right?
Yeah.
So but there are morons in the audience that actually dig the misogyny, and maybe I don't know how to deal with that. I to me, it's you educate them. You don't fucking stop the creative.
Yeah. A more recent example of that would be like Colbert. When he had the Colbert Report, he was playing this character, obviously,
right.
And obviously that attracted people who actually thought like that.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So exactly.
They're idiots. They don't get it. So again, it's like, I don't like when the rules are being made because of stupidity. I'd rather they either get ignored or tough titties. You don't get it, but you don't change the chemistry of the artist who does get it and is delivering fantastic material. But I guess that's the world we're in. We haven't been touched by it too much. I mean, we did one live gig and someone was offended by something one of us said, and it was a woman, and I got, she yelled at us and this and that, and it's just like, fuck off,
That's exactly how you gotta go about it.
And just recently I was on Twitter. You know who Ed the Sock is? No. Anyway, Ed the Sock is literally a sock puppet that was a comedian, and his wife, Kenny and I years ago did his show, which was like this late night show hosted by a sock, and and they put us in a hot tub. There were bikini clad, beautiful young girls all around us. I was wasted. I don't really remember anything. So cut to all these years later. I'm talking like last week. And there's a tweet that goes out. This isn't going to be political. It sounds like it's going to be. And it's about the premier of our province was listening to the opposition in the chamber or whatever. And he said, "You sound like nails on a chalkboard." So all of a sudden, she came out and did a press conference saying that the premier owes every woman in Ontario an apology. And when I saw that, I quoted the retweet saying, no, he doesn't. I've used nails on a chalkboard to talk about bands I don't like. They sound like nails on a chalkboard. So whether I was right or wrong about that is not the point of the story. So then Ed's wife, who is a serious feminist, sort of pushed back and said, "Spenny, are you drunk?" And I never talked to her directly on Twitter, but I know her. And I said, no, I said, it's not a gender-based insult. And, even if it is, whatever, toughen up, buttercup. That's kind of was my attitude. And then she tweeted back that, well, when you were on our show all those years ago with Kenny, you sexually harassed the girls, that were in the hot tub with us and whatever. And it's just like, did I or didn't I? I don't even fucking know or remember. I don't know what harassment is. Did I rape anybody? Did I make anybody cry? Could I have made some... People have to understand that life can be uncomfortable sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have to be able to tell the difference between Weinstein and what's his name? I said it just now.
Louis C.K.
Yeah, well, there's a difference. There's just a difference, and you can't change. Like neo-Nazis. Like I can't. They're never gonna like Jews, no matter what I do. They just can't commit crimes. That's it. I have to live with the discomfort that somewhere in Idaho there's a group of people who hate me. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You can't please everyone, and I think if you guys do more material, just don't. I please, I tell this to all my friends who like
Sure.
want to have like public jobs. Never apologize. Stick by your guns. Just go the
As
whole
long
way
as you
through.
haven't really done anything horrible, yeah, I totally agree with you. But but it's a dangerous game, I guess. I haven't been burned by it, so you could talk to me a year from now and let's say we got a show going on Amazon or something, and I said something or Kenny said something and we got kicked off, and now no one will hire me. That is it's a risk, and it's easy for me to say, to be brave, because I haven't been canceled yet. Or we'll see what happens. I like to think I could talk my way out of it, provided I didn't do anything that wrong. I mean, Sarah Silverman got panned for making fun of Chinese people. I think this was years ago, but she stuck by her guns. She went and did all the talk shows, and
Yeah.
if you don't have meanness in your heart, you should be able to talk your way out of it. But some of these cancel people, like for that girl to talk about sexual harassment and put it out in public. Now, I did tell her to fuck off, so I threw the first bomb because I was in a bad mood that day. So okay, but I'm a big boy. I can take it. I'm on, I don't just say all this shit. I live it. I deal with people calling me, like somebody, in a Twitter war said, that's not the only chamber you should be in, implying a gas chamber, right? It was a very anti-Semitic comment, But I didn't go ask for that guy to be taken off Twitter. But what I did do was I retweeted it or his Facebook and said, yeah, why don't you go troll this guy with all my followers? Not the most noble thing in the world, but it's like, I'm ready to rumble, not report you.
It's what you do. You fight fire with fire. I got one last question, if you don't mind.
Yes.
This is like a bit of like a urban legend at this point, but you sued Kenny while on Kenny versus Spenny, right? While you guys were filming it?
No.
You never sued him?
For real?
Yeah.
We had a fake lawsuit about I think, was it Wolffish? I can't even remember now.
I think it was in the semen episode when he threw semen at you or something.
I've never.
That's what I heard. You never sued him?
No, why should I? I mean, I know what Kenny's capable of, and when the TV cameras are on, you can up that by 10. So no, I could have quit at any time. I did it as an adult, as a free thinking person. I knew what I was getting into. Things happened like the acid, and that were probably by most standards way over the line. But like I said, I practice what I preach. I'm not gonna, I can be whiny and bitchy, but not that kind of stuff. Like you don't get in the ring with Kenny and not know some shit's gonna fly, right? That's
you never even called a lawyer, like not even that.
Never for anything. Like, where did you hear that?
I don't know. I hear it. I can't really remember at this point. It's kind of like an urban legend, like I said. But
I've never heard it, so it's not much of a legend. But like I've heard, I kissed him in Amsterdam. I've heard a million things like that, but nothing like that. No, there's no reason to. I mean, even if we had a business dispute and we've fought over money, and we've even recently, but never to that extent. No, that wouldn't make that. That's just not. Like I'm a big boy, and it's rough and tumble, that series, in a small way, and that's what I signed up for. I didn't compete against Pat Boone. It was Kenny Hotz. Like, that's what you're gonna get. All kinds of crazy shit.
All right. Well, we're out of time, but I just want to thank you for doing this. It was a great chat. Like, obviously, like you're always the butt of the joke, so it kind of feels good to see you. Just have like a real talk with you. And do you have anything you want to plug while you're here?
Plug? Yeah, I'm going to do a little live stream music thing, a half hour. I'm going to try it. I usually play in bars and pubs and clubs, and because of COVID, I can't do that. So someone talked me into just doing it, see if I can make a buck. And other than that, I'm writing a book, but that's a long way away from being done. So there's nothing to plug there. So that's really it, just that. And I think Kenny and I are going to start doing monthly or every 2 months. We're going to do these live stream things because it was successful, the first one we did, even though we had some audio problems. We had to do it twice. But he seems to like it, and the fans like it, most importantly. So, but I don't have any date or any specific plug. But keep your eye out on our social media. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Well, I'll be there to watch it. That's for sure. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, man.
You take care.
Stay safe.